To Rob Shooter joining me, host of Naughty But Nice podcast and former publicist for Sean Combs. He's the author of The 4-Word Answer. Rob, this is a PR disaster as far as I'm concerned. Of course, I look at things differently by the letter of the law. To turn around and claim Sean Combs is claiming he's the victim. You worked for him. Remember, you told me he ordered cheesecake at 3 a.m. and expected some lackey to run out and get it, and they did. That guy is the victim in this scenario?
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a ridiculous response. However, it's not a surprising response, at least to me, having worked with Puffy. Puffy always manages to make himself the center of everything. And he's done that once again here, being the victim. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but I do know when you've got very few options, when it looks as if you are guilty here, you're going to throw everything at the wall. So I predict if this doesn't stick, we'll hear more crazy explanations. But what we won't hear is that he did it. He won't take any responsibility for this. He's gotten away with this, Nancy, for a really long time. And, he's done things before when I worked with him that I thought was just a bad PR response. And I ultimately turned out to be wrong. He's really, really good at getting attention, of changing the message. He's done it for over 20 years. And so far, Nancy, it's worked out for him.
And joining me right now, in addition to Rob Shooter and Dr. Bethany Marshall, Lynn Shaw is joining us, founder and executive director of Lynn's Warriors, a nonprofit. They do this for free, dedicated to eradicating sex trafficking. Lynn, thank you for being with us. What he is relying on in claiming that he is being singled out, that he is the victim, is the so-called Mann Act. I remember studying it in first year law school, but it was very rarely used. But then quickly it became the basis for conspiracy prosecutions, such as the one here. So in recent years, say the last 20 years, it's been used frequently. And what the Mann Act is about is to stop the transportation of women across state lines for human sex trafficking. He is claiming, Lynn Shaw, that he is the victim, that the law is racist.
Nancy, let me tell you, right now I am standing in Brooklyn, New York, down the street from the Metropolitan Detention Center. It is taking all my strength to hold back from walking down there to slap some sense into some people. I am here with victims of abuse, we are seeking safe housing for these people, domestic violence. We are fighting for this. The Mann Act, the way this case will stick, and I have always maintained, is that we have to have the Mann Act enforced, sex trafficking over state lines, to make all charges stick. And then we have to go down that hole of minors. I still maintain we're not covering that enough. We're not digging into that enough. But while I stand here knowing down the street that Dirty Diddy is getting 3 square meals, and I'm standing here with survivors and we're begging just to have juice and milk and a sandwich once a day covered, is unbelievable. And as far as racist with that nonsense, and Rob said it, he's very good at spinning and being at the forefront and gaining attention, and everybody's covering it. But you know what? We're covering the reality, and it's about victims and supporting survivors. And you know what? He can't claim racist because we've got somebody like a Harvey Weinstein sitting in prison, probably dying in prison. So that, just throw that right out the window.
Oh, wait, you know what? I'm glad you brought him up, because Combs is arguing he's being singled out because of a racist statute that has been on the books for decades. But now somehow it's all about Diddy. There have been plenty of white guys and white women prosecuted under the Mann Act. Let me just start with a real legal term, jackass, Keith Raniere. Listen.
In their latest filing, Combs' defense writes, "There has never been a similar RICO prosecution. No white person has ever been the target of a remotely similar case." However, Keith Raniere, the founder of personal development club Nexium that really served as a recruitment tool for the sex cult DOS, was convicted of both sex trafficking and racketeering about 6 years ago. Ghislaine Maxwell was also found guilty of violating the Mann Act even more recently.
When I said that Keith Raniere was, technical legal term, a jackass, not only did he sex traffic women, he actually branded them, with a hot iron. Listen.
I think doing the actual brand in an orderly fashion, each of the 7 strokes having a certain ritualization, each of the strokes has something that's said and maybe repeated after the stroke is done. The person who's being branded should be completely nude. You could also, of course, videoing it from different angles or whatever gives collateral. So probably it should be a more vulnerable position. Feet being held to the side of the table, hands probably above the head being held, almost like tied down, like a sacrificial whatever. And the person should ask to be branded. Should say, please brand me, it would be an honor, or something like that. And an honor I want to wear for the rest of my life.
Okay. Dr. Bethany, help me, please. Did you hear Keith Raniere, the white guy that was prosecuted for sex trafficking? Did you hear him describing the branding process?
Nancy, I don't even know where to begin with that. First of all, he's ritualizing a perversion, right? This is a perversion, wanting to brand women. He, please, will you brand me? That statement does do 2 things. One is it's a legal defense, right? If he says that, if they say he did it against their will. But secondly, it makes him feel so superior in charge, as if he's dominating them. And the cameras from every angle. Nancy, that sounds like P. Diddy. That sounds like that big party room where he put the mirrors on the walls and the floors and the ceilings so he could see from every angle. Also shows 2 purposes: sexual excitement and putting the victims in humiliating situations so that you have ammunition against them.
Dr. Bethany, I really don't know how you help patients if you can't speak plainly. When you say see, and you do the little quoties, I've been guilty of that, but when you say see from every position, you mean close-up shots of the ladies as they're being. I mean,
that's right.
I had to learn that with juries. Right. And I almost stuttered the first time I had to curse and say the P word and the C word and the F word and the blah, blah, blah word. When I would be quoting defendants and what they said, I got over it because it doesn't matter. What matters is what happened to these victims. And when I hear Keith Raniere talking about what he did, you're right. The comparisons to what Sean Combs allegedly did to his victims is exactly correct. The videoing them, the having them in a submissive position, an embarrassing position, making them humiliated, making them humiliate themselves, according to Raniere. But he was prosecuted under the same statute that Combs is now whining about. Listen.
With these convictions, Raniere stands convicted of racketeering, sex trafficking, and related crimes. Over the last 7 weeks, this trial has revealed that Raniere, who portrayed himself as a savant and a genius, was in fact a master manipulator, a con man, and the crime boss of a cult-like organization involved in sex trafficking, child pornography, extortion, compelled abortions, branding, degradation, and humiliation. His crimes and the crimes of his co-conspirators ruined marriages, careers, fortunes, and lives.
To Lynn Shaw joining us out of Manhattan, founder, director, Lynn's Warriors, dedicated to eradicating human sex trafficking. Lynn, same thing here. Raniere portrayed himself as a genius, as Diddy portrays himself as a musical genius. That is how they convince victims to go along with them, the way they portray themselves. But now Combs claiming he is the victim of a racist statute.
You know, Nancy, they always very cleverly, these exploiters, they just flip the book. They are describing themselves, as these geniuses or these masters of the universe, or they're going to make somebody a star, or they're going to provide them with beautiful clothes and jewelry. Oh, we're going to give you a career. I tell you, when anybody hears that, you run the other way. They are exploiting vulnerable people. All of these men so far we've talked about all have the same traits. They take advantage of vulnerable people. They sell them a bill of goods. They are the ultimate con artists preying upon victims, brainwashing almost. And you know what? Enough. Not on our watch, not on anybody's watch. Wake up, everybody.